All right. Okay, everyone. So, greeting. May peace and power elevation be to all you beautiful people out there. This is your one and only girl, Tiffany French, coming through live in effect right here via the StreamYard, on the StreamYard of Facebook and YouTube. So, if you are watching from the YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel and share and hit the notification bell. But if you are watching from Facebook, go ahead and share the video. So, before I get started on the Daily Black History, first and foremost, I want to get my hearts out to the people out in Baltimore, Maryland. There was an explosion that took place, which caused a serious damage in the neighborhood where multiple houses was blown up. So this happened sometimes earlier today. So with that being said, I want to give my heart out to the people in Baltimore. Hopefully everybody is safe. And and my condolences go out to those who were the victim of that explosion. So it was a lot that's been happening in 2020. And then just recently there was an incident in Chicago. I'm not getting the whole full detail. You know, there's always an incident out there, but it has something to do with the police. So you guys, just make sure you live for the moment because tomorrow ain't promised to us. All right, live for the moment. Do what you can while you're here. Okay. But anyways, I want to get started. So today I'm dealing with I want to deal with topics on two African American women, right? Now I may not be able to get through both topics, so I would have to do one later on. So I might have to do one today and the other one later on. So on Daily Black History, today's topic is going to be dealing with Anna Julia Cooper and also Janie Porter Barrett. So yeah, Janie Porter Barrett and Anna Julia Cooper. So we're gonna deal with those two black women, those two phenomenal black women. So what I want to do is before I get go ahead and get to the subject, I want to go ahead and read a quote for today. All right. And it's coming from this book called Inyassasem by Baba Baruti. Inyassasem. Okay. All right. So this quote was written on August 10th. All right, today is August 10th. So the quote is, if an African-centered liberation movement is to be successful, it must rescue the collective African mind and soul from the clutches of Eurocentric and non-Afrocentric ideology. And that came from Dr. Amos Wilson. And it says, liberation does not just happen. It requires an intentional planned movement within which the problem has been articulated and the means of corrections understood and agreed upon by all involved. Any movement designed to liberate African minds and therefore African people must be informed by the magnitude and tendency of our mental bondage and the fact that we are and must be uncompromisingly African if we are to be free. If not, no matter the effort or the sporadic success, it will never truly emancipate us. If one theater, one servo linked to this cultural chaos remains, we will again be drawn back into its insanities. Affirm, I will not tolerate. I will tolerate not one teether, not one servo linked to this cultural chaos. So again, it's all about preserving the culture, and it's all about preserving those ancestry, those who came before us. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So today, since I don't have enough time, I would just be focusing on Anna Julia Cooper. All right. So who was Anna Julia Cooper? Okay. Pull up that picture. This is Anna Julia Cooper. Oh, and she was so pretty. She was such a pretty woman. But that's her. All right. All right. So right here it says Anna J. Cooper. All right. So Anna Julia Haywood. That was her main name. Anna Anna Julia Haywood Cooper, who was born August 10th of 1858, and she died on February 27th, 1964, was an American author, educated sociologist, speaker, Black liberation activist, and one of the most prominent African American scholars in the United States history. Okay. Born into slavery in 1858, Cooper went on to receive a world class education and claim power and prestige in academic and social circles. Upon receiving her PhD in history from the Sorbonne in 1924, Cooper became the fourth African American woman to earn a doctoral degree. All right. And she was also a prominent member of Washington, D.C.'s African American community and a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. Cooper made contribution to social science fields, particularly in sociology. She is sometimes called the mother of Black feminism. All right. So far, we know that she had a field in sociology. Okay. She was a Black liberation activist. She was an educator. So she had multiple fields that she was dealing with. And that was like that with a lot of African Americans. They dealt with more than one field because it goes to show that they were able to deal with multiple creativities and multiple subject matters. So let's look further more into her life. All right. So let's look more into her biography. Okay. So she was born in Raleigh, North Carolina. She and her mother, Hannah Stanley Haywood, were held in bondage by George Washington Haywood, one of the sons of North Carolina's longest serving state treasurer, John Haywood, who helped found the University of North Carolina, but whose estate was later forced to repay missing funds. Either George, in whose household her mother worked in bondage, or her brother, Dr. Phoebus Haywood, in whose household her older brother Andrew was enslaved. Were probably Anna's father. Anna's mother refused to clarify paternity. George became state attorney for Wake County and with a brother owned a plantation in Greene County, Alabama. All right. So they don't know who her biological father is. Um it was said to be that a guy named George Washington Haywood could have been her daddy. Who knows? But y'all gotta remember, and during that time of slavery, when the white master slept with the black woman who was a slave, he did not claim her child. He did not claim her child. And then you gotta also remember that whatever your mother was born, right? Whatever your mother was, that's what you was gonna become. So if your mama was a slave, you was gonna be born a slave. And she happened to be born a slave. And she happened to not really know who her daddy was. Or she was unsure about the man that held her in bondage as being her father. So yeah, they was making babies, but they weren't trying to take care of them. So yeah, you had a lot of deadbeat daddies back in those days. And the deadbeat dads didn't really start with the black men, it started with the white men because they was impregnating these black women and they was leaving them. They only wanted them so they could be able to produce more work. They weren't caring about raising no damn kids. They was using black women as the sideline chicks. And I hate using that term, but I'm just gonna be straight up. They was using black women as sideline chicks. They was using black women as bed wenches. You know, they was the backdoor hoes for these white men. That's what it was. That's how the white men see these black women at that time period, as the backdoor hoes, as the bed wenches, as a closet. Yeah, and a lot of us got these cracker pins in our blood. We got these Europeans running in our blood. And I know I'm glad I only got 70%. I'm glad that I only have 7%. I'm being straight up. I'm very happy of that because, you know, I'm glad I got predominant African genes. I don't want too much European genes in my blood. But, you know, that's also just, let's get back to the point. Anyways, Cooper, look at this. Yeah, Cooper worked as a domestic servant in the Haywood home and had two older brothers, Andrew J. Haywood and Rufus Haywood. Andrew, enslaved by Phoebus J. Haywood, later served in the Spanish-American War. Rufus was also born enslaved and became the leader of the musical group Stanley's Band. Wow. Okay, and let's talk about her education. So, in 1868, when Cooper was 9 years old, she received a scholarship and began her education at the newly opened St. Augustine's Normal School and Calais Institute in Raleigh, founded by local Episcopal diocese for the purpose of training teachers to educate the formerly enslaved and their families. The Reverend J. Britton offered Cooper a scholarship to help pay for her expenses. According to Mark S. Gow, a Cooper biographer, the educational levels offered at St. Augustine ranged from primary to high school, including trade skill training. During her 14 years at St. Augustine's, she distinguished herself as a bright and ambitious student who showed equal promise in both liberal arts and analytical discipline such as mathematics and science. Her subjects included language, Latin, French, Greek, English, literature, math, and science. Although the school had a special track reserved for women, dubbed the ladies' course, and the administration actively discouraged women from pursuing higher level courses. Of course they did. Look where we at. We in the patriarchal society. So of course they was going to discourage her. And the administration actively discouraged women from, yeah, okay, I read that part. Cooper fought for her right to take a course reserved for men by demonstrating her scholastic ability. During this period, St. Augustine's was it pedagogical emphasis was on training young men for the ministry, preparing them for additional training at four-year universities. And one of these men, George A.C. Cooper, would later become her husband. He died after only 2 years of marriage. Wow. It says Cooper academics excellent enable her to work as a tutor for younger children, which also helped her which also helped her pay for her educational expenses. After completing her studies, she remained at the institution as an instructor. In the 1883 and 84 school year, she taught classics, modern history, higher English, and vocal and instrumental music. She is not listed as faculty in 1884 and 85 year, but in 1885 and 1886, she is listed as instructor in classic rhetoric, etc. Her husband's early death may have contributed to her ability to continue teaching. Had she stayed married, she might have been encouraged or required to withdraw from the university to become a housewife. And then it goes on to say, after her husband's death, Cooper entered Oberlin College in Ohio, where she continued to follow the course of study designed for men, graduating in 1884. Given her academic qualification, she was admitted as a sophomore. She often attempted to take 4 courses rather than 3 as was prescribed by the college. She also was attracted to Oberlin by its reputation for music, but was unable to take as many classes in piano as she would have wished. Among her classmates were fellow black women Ida Gibbs and Mary Church Terrell. At Oberlin, she was part of the LLS, one of the 2 literary society for women, whose regular programs featured lecture by distinguished speakers as well as singers and orchestras. After teaching briefly at Wilberforce College, Cooper returned to St. Augustine's in 1885. She then went back to Oberlin and earned an MA in mathematics in 1888, making her one of the first 2 black women, along with Mary Church Terrell, who received her MA in the same year, to earn a master's degree. In 1900, she made her first trip to Europe to participate in the first Pan-African Conference. After visiting the cathedral towns of Scotland and England, she went to Paris for the World Exposition. After a week at the exposition, she went to, how do you say this word? Oberammergau to see the Passion Play. Thence to Munich and other German towns, then to Italy through Rome, Naples, Venice, Pompeii, Mount Vesuvius, and Florence. All right. So Anna Cooper was very passionate about her education. She was able to travel to different places. She actually got a chance to travel all over Europe, and she went to the first Pan-African meeting. So this woman was serious about education. She really was. She was so passionate, and she had a desire to do so, to be that influence. Ooh, excuse me. Water is good for you. You should drink it more often. All right. Okay, so let's go down to here. It says Washington, D.C. years. She later moved to Washington, D.C. in 1892. Anna Cooper, Helen Hoppo Cook, Ida B. Bailey, Charlotte 14 Gimmick, Mary Jane Peterson, Mary Church Terrell, and Evelyn Shaw formed the Colored Women's League in Washington, D.C. The goals of the service-oriented club was to promote unity, social progress, and the best interests of the African American community. Helen Cook was elected president. Okay. Now, Cooper would develop a close friendship with Charlotte 14 Gimmick. Cooper began teaching Latin at M Street High School, becoming principal in 1901. She later became entangled with a controversy involving the different attitudes about Black education, as she advocated for a model of classical education espoused by W.E.B. Du Bois, designed to prepare eligible students for higher education and leadership, rather than the vocational program that was promoted by Booker T. Washington. As a result of this, she left the school. Later, she was recalled to M Street, and she fit her work on her doctoral thesis into nooks and crannies of free time. So this woman taught Latin, and she became very controversial because she wanted to support a classical education that was that came about from W.E.B. Du Bois. And she was very, again, she was a passionate woman. You can really tell just by her biography. Okay, so now one of the words that she written was called A Voice from the South, which I'm gonna look that up in a few moments because I have it. Okay, but it says during her years as a teacher and principal at M Street High School, Cooper also completed her first book, A Voice from the South, by a Black woman of the South, published in 1892, a delivering many speeches called for civil rights and women's rights. All right. Now, perhaps her most well-known volume of writing, A Voice from the South, is widely viewed as the first articulation of Black feminism. The book advanced a vision of self-determination through education and social uplift for African American women. Its central thesis was that the educational, moral, and spiritual progress of Black women would improve general standing of the entire African American community. She says that the violent natures of men often run counter to the goals of higher education, so it is important to foster more female intellectuals. And she's right. It is more important. Listen, it is so important to foster more female intellectual because they will bring more elegance to education. Now, there's an African proverb that says that when you teach a man, you teach an individual. But when you teach a woman, you teach a nation. Because you know why that is? Because the woman is considered as the primary teacher. She's the primary teacher. She teaches the baby, the infant, right? And she gives the infant the basic education, such as saying your manners, such as saying alphabets and numbers, and learning how to walk and all of that. So the mother is the primary nurturer. She's the primary teacher. So I totally agree with this article or her storyline that there needs to be more female intellectual because they can bring more passion into education. And to this day, we still need more female intellectual. And for those of you that don't think that women should be as intellectual and only use their bodies, you stupid. And I'm here to let you know that right now, you stupid as hell. Because there's so much more to us as women than just our damn bodies. Yeah, a woman can use her body all damn day to show off and to, get the male's attention or get anybody's attention. But what about the mind of the woman? That's what's more important. Using your head, using your intellect. And I put on the post that as women in this society, we have been taught to use our bodies more than we've been taught to use our minds. So our body is more valuable than our minds, when it should be our mind being more valuable than our bodies. But anyways, let me continue. I just want to say that. And it says, this view was criticized by some as submissive to the 19th century cult of true womanhood. But others label it as one of the most important arguments for Black feminism in 19th century. Cooper advanced a new view that it was the duty of educated and successful Black women to support their underprivileged peers in achieving their goals. The essays in A Voice from the South also touched on a variety of topics such as race and racism, gender, and the social economic realities of Black families and the administration of the Episcopal Church. So you're gonna hear a lot about church because church has been the central foundation within the Black community. Yeah. I know how you might feel about religion, etc. But church always played the prominent role in the Black community. But now today it's the church and the masjid. But during that time it was mainly church because a lot of Black people gravitated onto Christianity. And they have used Christianity as the platform for social, political, and spiritual components. Okay? So, and a lot of churches help open up educational institutions, especially the HBCUs. That's what you're going to come to find out. But anyways, let me continue. You know, I'm so curious. What the hell is a cult of true womanhood? Let me find this out. This mess off of here. Get this off of here. Cult of domesticity. Hold on. What is that? The culture of domesticity, or often shown to cult of domesticity or cult of true womanhood, is a term used by historians to describe what they consider to have been a prevailing value among the upper and middle classes during the 19th century in the United States and the United Kingdom. This value system emphasized new ideas of femininity, the woman's role within the home, and the dynamics of work and family. The true women, according to this idea, were supposed to possess four cardinal virtues: piety, purity, domesticity, and submissiveness. The idea revolved around the woman being the center of the family. She was considered the light of the light of the home. All right. And it goes on to say the women and men who mostly actively promoted these standards were generally white and Protestants. The most prominent of them lived in New England and the northeastern United States. Although all women were supposed to emulate this ideal femininity, Black, working class, and immigrant women were often excluded from the definition of true women because of social prejudice. So due to social prejudice, Black women, working class women, immigrant women were not considered as true women. And this is according to European standards at that time. They were not considered as true women. So if you was a Black woman at that time, you weren't considered as a true woman. And it says, since the idea was first advanced by Barbara Wilter in 1966, many historians have argued that the subject is far more complex and nuanced than terms such as cult of domesticity or true womanhood suggest, and that the roles played by and expected of women within the middle class 19th century contexts were quite varied and often contradictory. For example, it has been argued that much of what has been considered as anti-feminist in the past, in fact, helped lead to feminism. Oh. Let's read this real fast. Part of the separate spheres ideology, the cult of domesticity identified the home as women's proper sphere, Women were supposed to inhabit the private sphere, running the household and production of food, including servants, rearing the children, and taking care of the husband. According to Barbara Whistler, true women were to hold and practice the four cardinal virtues, right? Which is piety. Religion was valued because, unlike intellectual pursuits, it did not take a woman away from her proper spheres, the home, and because it controlled women's longings. Purity, virginity, a woman's greatest treasure, must not be lost until marriage night, and a married woman had remained committed only to her husband. Well, you know what? The second part makes sense. I mean, although many of us did give up our virginity, I mean, we wasn't married. Um, and yes, I do agree that married women should be committed to their husband, not multiple men. That I do agree. So, but we know that in today it's not prevalent because, you got motherfuckers that just run around here and got this open marriage thing going on and trading places with other partners and shit like that. So, yeah. But anyways, the third one is submission. The true women were required to be as submissive and obedient as little children. Oh, for the life of me, no, not as little children, because men were regarded as women's superiors by God's appointed. Oh, this is okay. Domesticity, right? A woman's proper place was in the home, and her role as a wife was to create a refuge for her husband and children. Cooking, needlework, making beds, tending flowers were considered naturally feminine activities, whereas reading anything other than religious biographies was discouraged. Now, I got some mixed views about that. I do believe that women should learn domesticated work around the house, like such as cooking and cleaning and washing. I mean, that's necessary. Anyone should learn how to do that, not just the woman. I mean, and women are naturally nurturers. So women are going to naturally raise children for the most part. And they're going to naturally be at home with the kids. Okay. Now, the part about whereas reading anything other than religious biographies, to me, that's nonsense. I mean, but that's how they thought back then. You know what I'm saying? This is what you call the conservative society during that time period. But, woo. Yeah, but that's interesting. All right, so let's get back to Miss Anna Cooper. Okay. Later years. This is the home, her former home, Letroy Park, the neighborhood of Washington, D.C. The home is located besides Anna J. Cooper Circle. Okay, so this is the home that she was living in. That's a beautiful house. Okay, so let's go ahead and skip down. It also mentioned where she had delivered a speech in 1893. The paper entitled "The Intellectual Progress of the Colored Women of the United States Since the Emancipation of Proclamation" at the World's Congress of Representative Women in Chicago. She was one of 5 African American women invited to speak at this event, along with Fannie Bailey Williams, Sarah Jane Woodson Early, Hadley Quinn Brown, and Fannie Jackson Coppin. All right. Cooper was also present at the first Pan-African Conference in London, England in 1900 and delivered a paper entitled "The Negro Problem in America." Let's see what she had to say. In 1902 speech, she said, "A nation's greatness is not dependent upon the things it makes and uses, Things without thoughts are mer of vulgarities. America can boast her expanse of territory, her gilded domes, her paving stones of silver dollars. But the question of deepest moment in this nation today, it is men and its women, the elevation at which it receives its vision into the ferment of eternal truth. And that was called The Ethic of the Negro Question, September the 5th of 1902. But see, the lady wouldn't stop right there. The lady kept on with her education. All right, it says in 1914, at the age of 56, Cooper began courses for her doctoral degree at Columbia University, but was forced to interrupt her studies in 1915 when she adopted her late half brother's 5 children upon their mother's death. Later on, she transferred her credits to the University of Paris, Sorbonne, which did not accept her Columbia thesis and edition of Le Palais de Charlemagne. Over a decade, she researched and composed her dissertation, completing her coursework in 1924. Cooper defined her thesis: the attitude of France on the question of slavery between 1789 and 1848 in 1925. Cooper's retirement from Washington Color High School in 1930 was by no means the end of her political activism. The same year she retired, she accepted the position of president at Frelighsen University, a school founded to provide classes for DC residents lacking access for higher education. Cooper worked for Frelighsen for 20 years, first as president and then as a registrar, and left the school only a decade before she passed away in 1964 at the age of 105. She lived a long life. At the age of 65, she became the fourth Black woman in American history to earn a doctorate of philosophy degree. Her work was eventually published in Anthology of Medieval French Literature and was requested for classes in the bookstores at Harvard. Okay, so let's go down to the reference. Let's see. So these are the notes right here. And these are the reference. It's called the Foundation of African American Sociology, which I need to look that up myself. Yeah. Okay. And it says Anna Julia Cooper, etc. All right, so here are the sources right here at the bottom. So if you want to look up more information, you can. And you go under further reading, you can find out more information right here. And look up external link right here. All right. Okay. All right, so let's look at a preview of one of her writings, which is called A Voice from the South. So this is it right here. And it's called A Voice from the South by a Black woman of the South. And it was copyrighted in 1892 by Anna Julia Cooper. All right, so you see the table of contents, etc. All right, so let's see, which one do I want to read? That seemed might interesting. Okay, so let's go ahead and all right. So, anyways, all right. This is one of her books. I'm trying to find which session I can start with. I don't know which one I want to start. All right, so this is what she wrote right here. This is page one. Our risen de ettore. In the clash and clatter of our American conflict, it has been said that the South remains silent. Like the Sphinx, she inspires a vociferous uh, disputation, but herself takes little part in the noisy controversy. One muffled strain in the silent South, a jarring chord, and a vague and uncomprehended cadenza has been and still is the Negro, and that the muffled chord, the one mute and voiceless note, has been the sadly expectant black woman. An infant crying in the night, an infant crying for the night, for the light, with no language but a cry. The colored man's inheritance and appointment is still the sober crux, the perplexing coup d'etat of the nation. The dumb skeleton in the closet, provoking ceaseless harangues, indeed, but little understood and seldom consulted attorneys for the plaintiff and attorneys. All right, for the defendant, with a bludgeoning glaciere have analyzed and dissected, theorized, and synthesized with sublime ignorance or pathetic misapprehension of counsel from the black client. One important witness has not yet heard from. The summing up of the evidence deposed and the charge to the jury have been made, but no word from the black woman. It's because I believe the American people to be consciously committed to a fair trial and ungarbled evidence, and because I feel it is essential to a perfect understanding and an equitable verdict that true from each standpoint be present at the bar. And that this little voice has been added to already, full chorus. The other side has not been represented by the one who lives there, and not many can sensibly realize and more accurately tell the weight and the fret of the long dull pain than the open eye but hit was it hitherto voiceless black woman of America. The feverish uh, agitation, the perverted energy, the busy objectivity of the more turbulent life of our men serves, it may be at once too. Okay, so as you can see, and this is her book, as you can see that she's very poetic. She's very poetic, and she's speaking from a poetry standpoint, right? So she's speaking about her experience as an African American woman, right? And what she has witnessed growing up in the South, and witnessed what took place as far as racism and gender issues and things of that nature. So She wanted to make herself heard. And remember, she was a very busy woman. This woman didn't have no time to slow down for anybody. She was going to continue to do what she had to do. So if you want to look up more information about Anna Cooper's book, A Voice from the South, just go ahead and look it up. All right, this is the book right here. And it was written by her in 1892. Okay. So let's go on and see what else we can find about Miss Anna Cooper. So this book right here is called The African American Women, an Encyclopedia of Literature by and about about women of color, volume 1 and 2. So, all right, so let's see what it goes on to say. All right, so it says here, let's go down to here about how she became a widow. So it says, widow 2 years later at the age of 21. Cooper never remarried, a decision that later exposed her to scandalous ablaze of founding charges of impropriety. Cooper did foster 2 orphan children, and in 1915 became the legal guardian of her brother's 5 grandchildren. A long life educator dedicated to promoting equal educational opportunity for Black men and women, Cooper taught at Raleigh alma mater until 1881, when she enrolled at Oberlin College in Ohio. Okay, and she received her AB in 1884. She planned to resume lecturing at St. Augustine's. However, a disagreement regarding her position delayed her return, and she instead taught at Wilberforce College, accepting a faculty appointment at St. Augustine the following year. Cooper taught Latin, Greek, mathematics courses. In 1887, primarily due to the strength of her teaching, Oberlin awarded her a master's degree. Whoa, so now you know she was a powerful teacher. Okay. So and then it goes on to say that Cooper continued promoting a classical curriculum that prepares students to enter well-known, esteemed universities. Following the controversy, her contract was not renewed, and she was forced to teach briefly at Lincoln Institute in Missouri before returning to the M Street School in 1910. And she said, a rigorous academic throughout her life, Cooper pursued doctoral studies at Columbia University from 1914 to 1917 and the University of Paris, Sorbonne, where she received her PhD in 1925. Even after her ostensible retirement, she assumed the presidency at what we talked about at Furlan Hosing University in Washington, D.C. in 1930. Upon her death on February 27, 1964, she had, for the better part of a century, worked tirelessly not only to fashion and participate a thriving African American intellectual community, but also to demonstrate the crucial roles Black women should play within such communities. Indeed, through her own extraordinary example, Anna Julia Cooper enacted her heretofore Latin possibilities. All right. So, and then here's some more information right here. Okay. And the name of this book is called Writing African American Women, an Encyclopedia of Literature by and about women of color, volume 1 and part 2. Let me pull it up so you guys can really see it. All right, so this is it right here. And then it was written by or edited by Elizabeth Anna Ballo or Bally, yeah, Ballo or Below, Elizabeth Ann Below, Greenwood Press. And let's see, what year was it written? It was written in 2006. Okay. All right, so that's that information. Then also, here's another information here. All right, so it's called Special Focus. Dr. Anna Julia Cooper, 1858 to 1964, teacher, scholar, and timeless womanist. And the author was Mark S. Gow. The source was called the Journal of Negro Education, fall of 2006, volume 75, number 4, page number 621 and 634. Okay. And I'm on jaster.org. Okay. So let's see, what else can we find about this woman? So as you can see, it goes right here. It says that studying the history of Black educational leadership adds to our understanding of the rich cultural heritage of Black educational struggle and challenges the norms of contemporary educational settings for African Americans. William, and it got the name of the source that this person used, noted the Negro question is at the very heart of American history and American educational history. The complexity of how and why Blacks should be educated is deeply embedded politically, ideologically, economically in the early decades of the Republic, and significant questions of educational access and equity persist into the 21st century. When the question of gender is combined with the issue of race, deeper complexity emerge. All right, it says Dr. Anna Cooper modeled excellence as an educator and educational administrator, a vocal advocate for Black women's rights, a public intellectual, social activist, a writer and teacher, scholar, poet, and community activist, and outspoken Black educational leader. Cooper's insightful and critical analysis of race, gender, socioeconomic class dynamics established a cornerstone for the contemporary theories on Black feminism, womanism, and the role of education in the uplift of the Black community. Okay. And as a venerated public school educator in the District of Columbia from 1887 to 1930, from 1930 through the early 1940s, as the president of the community-based adult educational center known as the Frelihausen University, Cooper lived what Bell Hooks called engaged pedagogy. Engaged pedagogy, stated Hooks, emphasizes well-being. That means that teacher must be actively committed to a process of self-actualization that promotes their own well-being if they are to teach in a manner that empowers students. Within the historiography of American Black education, Cooper stands as a shining example within the historiography of American Black education. Cooper stands as a what I say? Oh yeah, Cooper stands as a shining example of an educator. His holistically dedicated to her community and committed to helping others reach their highest potential. Her legacy continues as a model for Black women voice and space, and the uplift of the Black community. And I would say this, in writing a response to 1930s survey on Negro college graduate, Cooper plainly declared her vocation as the education of neglected people. In this way, the work of Paulo Freire connects with Cooper's pedagogy, and practice as a former slave and member of two oppressed groups, blacks and females. Cooper represented a strong analytic voice for liberatory outcomes. This study draws attention from her commitment to social justice through the self-actualization that emerged from self-knowledge, pride, love of family, and a commitment to excellence and achievement in a strong spirituality based on the social gospel of Jesus. Cooper accepted the uplifting ideology that premates her youth and pursued a compassion practice that challenged the oppressive nature of racism and sexism in the United States. She worked to free others from illiteracy and lack of knowledge and expanded opportunity for members of the Black community. So that's this article here. It's called Dr. Anna Julia Cooper, 1858 to 1964, teacher, scholar, and timeless womanist, written by Mark S. Gow, Miami University, which is located in Ohio. And the name of it, the article is the Journal of Negro Education. That's page 75. No, let me take that back. That's volume 75, number 4, and it was written on the fall of 2006. So there you go. You can look up that information right there. All right. All right, and this one is called the Victorianism, Civilization, and Progressivism, the educational idea of Anna Julia Cooper and W.E.B. Du Bois from 1892 to 1940. All right. And it was written by Derek P. Algery. Okay, Anna Julia Cooper and W.E.B. Du Bois were two of the most prominent African-American educators of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. During this period, they both envisioned a broad education tailored specifically to critical intellectual and vocational needs of the entire Black community. They also participated in international affairs, attending and working together at some of the same conferences and meetings, shared a belief that education should encourage Blacks to place their situation and struggles within a global context. In developing their educational ideas, they both address a wide range of educational issues: Black women education, education of the Black masses, and the history curriculum in Black schools that spoke to the universal as well as the local realities of Black life in America. At the core of their educational thought was their beliefs that social advancement would result in equality for Blacks. All right, it says, although Cooper and Du Bois sought to improve Black life through education, their belief in equality for Blacks and Black social advancement was in conflict with the dominant intellectual currents of their day: Victorianism, civilization, and progressivism. These three strands of intellectual thought, for the most part, promoted ideas of white supremacy and Black inferiority, the very ideas that Cooper and Du Bois sought to combat. Ever the Dalletians, Coopers and Du Bois embraced aspects of Victorianism, civilizationism, and progressivism, but reconciled the idea and languages of these ideologies to construct educational ideas that emphasize Black equality and social advancement. Yeah, so what her and W.E.B. Du Bois both had in common, they were very passionate about education of African Americans and, uplifting the Black community. But she was focusing more on the Black women, right? Because by her being an African American woman, she understands the struggle and the pain, and she knows the struggle. Whereas W.E.B. Du Bois was focusing on the Black masses in general. All right. All right. And the name of this article, And it was written in the article was written in History of Education Quarterly, Volume 47, number 4, on November of 2007. And let's see what this person's talking about. Um. All right, so let's read something. Let's look at something real quick. It says Cooper's and Du Bois' ideal for of education for race leadership clearly reflects the notion of Victorian womanhood for Black women, civilizationist progress for African Americans, and progressive social reforms for Black via scientific study and activism. Despite the social Darwinist biases found in Victorianism and civilizationism and progressivism, Cooper and Du Bois adopted aspects of these intellectual current and infused them into their ideas of leadership for Blacks during the late 1800s and the early 1900s. Only Du Bois termed this leadership model the talented 10, but both he and Cooper advocated for an elite group of educated Blacks to uplift the race to its rightful place in history and civilization. Broad-based curriculum for race development and uplifting. While Cooper and Du Bois believed education for strong leadership was necessary for Black progress, they also called for a broad-based curriculum to prepare all Blacks for roles in the uplift of their race and communities. In addition, their educational views reflected Victorian notion of refinement and universal knowledge and progressive notions of particularly and practicality and utility. A broad-based education allowed for differentiation in specific fields of study and incorporated liberal arts as a core component. Such a curriculum would address the varied needs of the African American community and educated all Blacks, regardless of their chosen field of study or profession, with a shared and broad knowledge base that would facilitate Black race development and uplift. According to Cooper and Du Bois, the forces of slavery and discrimination had ingrained destructive social habits among Blacks, embedded the development of the Black race in the United States, and relegated Blacks to the lowest stratum of society. Right in 1902, Cooper stated, the American Negro is today but 37 years removed from the chatteldom, not long enough surely to ripen the century plant of a civilization. After 250 years of a most debasing slavery, inured to toil but not to thrift, without home, without families' ties, without those habits of self-relying industry by which people maintain a struggle for existence, poor, naked, weak, ignorant, degraded, even below his pristine state as a savage. The American Negro was at the close of War of the Rebellion, cut loose as the slang of the today expressed it, and left to fend for himself. Du Bois similarly noted, the great deficiency of the Negro, however, is his small knowledge of the art of organized social life, that last expression of human culture, his development in group life was abruptly broken off by black codes and suddenly wrenched anew by the Emancipation Proclamation. He found himself there, therefore, particularly weak in that nice adoption of individual life to the life of the group, which is the essence of civilization. Um, then it goes down to say, in moving blacks towards higher level of civilization, Cooper and Du Bois understood that not all black would go to college or embark on careers in the learned profession. However, they believed that a liberal arts curricular core in primary and secondary schools, as well as in college and vocational institution, was necessary to prepare all blacks to become enlightened leaders of or participant in black racial progress. A broad-based education, Cooper believed, would provide blacks with the tool necessary to better understand the complex world in which they live and to contribute to race progress beyond their individual vocation. She stated, "We must, whatever else we do, insist on those studies which, by the consensus of educators, are calculated to train our people to think, which will give them the power of appreciation and make them righteous. In a word, we are building men, not chemists or farmers or cooks or soldiers, but men ready to serve the body politics in whatever application their talent is needed." All right. And it says, for even domestic workers, Cooper believed should receive some education in the liberal arts to prepare them to play an active role in race development and uplift. According to Cooper, a domestic worker could refute prejudgments, ally opposition, and mold favorable statements without ever opening her lips on the Negro problem. She can, in her own person and by her own character, offer a solution of that problem, which will grandsay all surveil and all criticism. Cooper believed that domestic service, like all other types of workers, should have behind it a thorough course of general education. Cooper's belief this broad-based education also reflects the influence of Victorian womanhood on her educational thought. She believed that education in the liberal arts, even among domestic workers, would provide black women with the refined language and manners that would help protect positive moral values and manners, and thus move blacks up the ladder of civilization. All right. And this is the name of the article right here. Okay. So you can go ahead and look this article up. And read it up for yourself. All right. So, okay. So I'm going to leave off with a conclusion. So far, what we know that Anna Cooper dedicated her life to her own people. She fought for her people. She made sure that she did what was necessary to play her role by becoming an educator, a teacher in her community. Although that she was an unsung hero, but she also going to receive credit for today. As you guys knows that today is her birthday. But, she's an ancestor. But you know what? Her work should be commemorated. Along with Mary McLeod Bethune and many other hosts of women who have dedicated their lives to bring about the improvement of the black community. So she did what she had to do. And you guys have to remember, in the time period, they were living during a Victorian era. So that was around the 1800s. Okay? Going into the early 1900s. They was living around that time period. So she had to do whatever was necessary to bring some form of accommodation to her people. to bring information to the light, so that will help her people to become elevated and become higher and be able to pursue in education, so they can be able to take the information and give it back to the environment they come from. So with that being said, I do strongly agree with her 100%. I agree that education does bring about the liberation of our community, but also it is up to the people who want to be educated, who want to break themselves out of, who want to elevate themselves, who want to be able to expand their minds and grow. So it's up to those people. You can't make everybody learn. You can't make everybody do their own research. You can't do it. You can only inspire people, and that's what we're here to do. So if you have a goal in life, and whatever your goal is, that's what you're gonna have to stick to. So her goal and her mission was to be able to bring inspiration and show people that we not always illiterate. Okay, we can get out of this state of being told that we're inferior. Especially as Black women, we should be appreciative that doors was open for us, because if it wasn't for women like her and Mary McLeod Bethune and Mary Churchill, Mary Church Terrell, and many other Black women, we would not be where we are today. We would not be able to go and get the proper education. We would not be able to have a foundation. It was women like her that broke those barriers and said, you know what, we gonna demand this, we gonna fight for this, we gonna make sure we get what we need. So with that, so other than that, I'm gonna have to end this video, but I am gonna come back with the part 2 of this, because I want to be able to look into a sister named we're gonna look into this sister named Janie Porter Barrett. So I'm gonna look into her information, and we're gonna yes, we're gonna talk about her as well. You know, because her birthday was yesterday, so we're gonna commemorate this woman for what she has done, because she has done things that was similar to what Anna Julia Cooper was doing. All right, so I'm gonna give you a picture of what this woman looked like. All right, this is her right here. This is Janie Porter Barrett. So we're gonna go into her later on in the evening. So when I come back with the part 2, that's who I'm gonna be talking about. But other than that, thank you guys for watching the video. And you guys have a wonderful afternoon, or whatever your time zone may be. Please be safe and be careful. And again, my heart goes out to the brothers and sisters out there in Baltimore, Maryland, who was the victim of the explosion that took place. And my heart goes out to their families as well. Remember, you can't live for tomorrow. You can only live for today, because you never know what tomorrow may come. You never know what's going to happen next. So do while you can. Do what you can while you're here. All right. And also, if you want to support the channel, you can go ahead and do so. That's my Cash App information. If you would like this, if you like what I'm doing and you like what I'm posting up, go ahead and support this channel. Also, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. And not only you subscribe, but you also make sure you share this video. All right. So other than that, you guys have a wonderful day and take it easy on yourself. All right. Okay, then deuces. And I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you.